Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in life when the excuses run out, when the fear feels too heavy to carry any longer, and when the dream you've been sitting on starts to ache like fire in your bones. That moment is now. Now is not just a time on the clock, it's a divine appointment. A holy interruption, a call from heaven saying, I didn't put you on this earth to just survive. I placed you here to thrive, to rise, to walk boldly in the vision I've planted in your soul. You've been waiting for a sign, for clarity, for the perfect conditions. But God says, the vision isn't waiting on perfection. The vision is waiting on obedience. This is not the time to shrink. This is not the time to doubt. This is the time to step into the vision that God has for your life. So today, we're not just talking about change, we're walking into it. You ready? Let's go. We often think that when something doesn't happen right away, it means it's not meant for us. We assume that the delay is a sign of denial, that the silence is a no, that the closed door is a rejection. But what if I told you that delay is not denial? It's preparation. It's process. It's God's way of aligning everything in your life so that when the vision finally unfolds, you are ready to carry it. God does not rush greatness. He does not microwave destiny. He is a God of seasons, and each one is intentional. Just because you haven't seen the vision come to pass yet doesn't mean it's not coming. It just means that He's still working on the pieces, some of which you can't even see. He's aligning people you haven't met, opportunities you don't know about, and strengths within you that haven't even been activated. We live in a culture that glorifies speed, fast money, fast fame, fast success. But God's kingdom doesn't operate on human clocks. God's timing is perfect, not fast, not slow, perfect. And perfection doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Sometimes it looks like delay. Sometimes it looks like you're stuck, when in reality you're being shaped. We don't like the in-between. We don't like waiting. But it's in the waiting where your character is forged, where your faith is tested, where your trust in God is deepened. It's in the waiting where you learn to let go of your own plans and lean fully into His will. You may be ready for the promise, but the promise may not be ready for you yet. There's a weight that comes with vision, a responsibility, a level of maturity required to carry what God has shown you. He won't give you the fullness of the promise until your heart, your mindset, and your capacity can handle it. Because He loves you too much to give you something that will crush you instead of elevate you. When Joseph had the dream about the palace, he didn't go from vision to fulfillment overnight. He was sold. He was betrayed. He was imprisoned. And yet in every season, God was with him. Each delay was a layer of preparation. Each disappointment was refining his character until the day came when the dream met the preparation and he was ready to step into the fullness of what God had for him. If Joseph had gotten to the palace too early, he wouldn't have known how to lead. He wouldn't have understood the weight of wisdom, the cost of integrity, the power of forgiveness. The process was painful, but it was necessary. And it's the same with us. We cry out for the palace, but we don't want the prison. We want the vision, but not the refinement. But the truth is, the delay is part of the deliverance. The wilderness is part of the way. God sees what you cannot see. He knows what's ahead. That detour, it was protection. That closed door, it was redirection. That season of waiting, it was strengthening your roots. Because a tree with shallow roots can't weather strong winds, and the vision you carry will face storms. It will face resistance. It will require endurance. So before God sends the rain, He builds the foundation. When you understand that delay is not denial, you stop panicking and start preparing. You stop comparing your journey to others and trust that your path is uniquely designed. You realize that just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. It just means the timing has to be right for you, for the vision, and for everyone connected to it. God is a master strategist. He's not just looking at your timeline. He's orchestrating a divine symphony where every note has to be in place. And sometimes that means He holds you back while He moves other pieces forward. It's not punishment, it's positioning. Because when the moment comes, when the door opens, when the vision manifests, it will be undeniable. You will know that it was only God who could have aligned it so perfectly. There is a vision that God has placed inside of you that requires more than just dreaming. It requires your voice and your faith. That vision isn't passive, it's active. It isn't just something you think about in the quiet corners of your mind. It's something you have to speak into existence, believe into reality, and walk toward with boldness, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. You see, God often gives us visions that are bigger than us, visions that scare us, stretch us, and call us out of our comfort zones. Because if it was something you could accomplish in your own strength, you wouldn't need Him. The vision demands faith because the road to it is filled with unknowns. There will be obstacles, detours, and moments where the picture looks nothing like the promise. And that's exactly why your voice and your faith become the tools that carry you through. When God spoke creation into existence, He used words to let there be light, and there was light. That same creative power lives in you. When you speak life over your vision, you are aligning yourself with heaven's plan. But when you stay silent out of fear, insecurity, or doubt, you suppress the very power God gave you to activate what's already within you. You can't afford to mute your voice just because the vision intimidates you. You were created to declare, to decree, to speak those things that are not as though they were. Your voice sets the atmosphere. It's not just about talking. It's about declaring truth in the face of lies. It's about saying, I am called when everything around you says you're unqualified. It's about saying, this is possible, even when others laugh or doubt. The enemy would love for you to stay quiet because he knows that your voice is a weapon. He knows that when you speak God's promises over your life, something shifts in the spirit. Heaven moves when you move your mouth in faith. But faith alone can't stay hidden in your heart. It has to show up in your walk, in your decisions, in your ability to keep showing up when nothing around you looks like what God showed you. Faith is not a feeling, it's a choice. A daily choice to trust God even when the evidence tells you otherwise. A decision to keep sowing, keep building, keep believing, even when you don't see results. And let's be real, there will be times when it feels like your faith is failing, when the vision looks blurry, when doubt creeps in and tells you you missed it, or that maybe it was never from God in the first place. But that's when you go back to what He said. That's when you open your mouth and remind yourself an enemy of the promise. That's when you dig deep and declare, if God said it, I believe it, and if I believe it, I will move like it's already done. Sometimes we wait for others to validate our vision. We wait for permission, for confirmation, for applause. But you don't need a crowd to believe in what God told you in private. You don't need approval to start walking in your purpose. If God gave you the vision, He's already given you the authority to move forward with it. Your faith isn't dependent on who believes with you. It's built on the one who spoke it over you. And here's the thing, vision attracts opposition. The moment you start speaking it out, the moment you start believing it, the moment you start walking in it, you will face resistance. But that's not a sign to back down. That's confirmation that you're on the right track. The enemy doesn't fight what doesn't threaten him. Your vision threatens the darkness. It threatens every lie the enemy told you about your worth, your potential, and your purpose. You have to stop disqualifying yourself because of your past, your mistakes, or your lack of resources. God doesn't need perfection to fulfill vision. He needs surrender. He needs faith. He needs a voice that's willing to speak, even when it trembles. A heart that's willing to believe, even when it doubts. A spirit that's willing to rise, even after it's been knocked down. So yes, your vision requires your voice and your faith, not just to inspire others, but to remind yourself who you are and what you're here to do. Fear has a way of paralyzing purpose. It whispers lies that sound like truth, convincing you that the risk is too great, that you're not enough, that stepping out will only end in failure or rejection. But the truth is, you can't step into the fullness of your God-given purpose while holding on to fear. Fear and purpose can't coexist in the same space. One will always overpower the other. And you have to decide which one will lead your life. God didn't call you to live a life ruled by fear. He didn't plant that vision inside of you only for you to bury it beneath anxiety, hesitation, and what-ifs. That vision was meant to stretch you, to challenge you, to grow you. And yes, that means it will scare you. But fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that you're on the edge of something greater than yourself. It's proof that what you're stepping into requires more of God and less of you. Too often we think courage means the absence of fear, but real courage is moving forward in spite of it. It's choosing to walk into what God has called you to do, even while your hands shake and your voice trembles. It's showing up scared, but showing up anyway. Because if you wait for the fear to leave, you'll be waiting forever. Fear doesn't leave until it's confronted. And it's your action, not your comfort, that pushes it back. God's purpose for your life is too significant to be sidelined by fear. He placed something inside of you that the world needs, but the world will never see it if you keep shrinking to fit within the safety of your own doubts. Playing small won't protect you from disappointment. It will only protect you from growth. And the longer you stay in fear, the more you miss out on the impact your obedience could have on others. Fear speaks in the voice of past failures and future unknowns. It reminds you of every moment you've ever fallen short, every door that's ever closed, every time you were overlooked, misunderstood, or underestimated. It magnifies the problem and minimizes the promise. But God's voice speaks differently. He reminds you that you are chosen, that you are equipped, that you are not alone. He doesn't promise that the journey will be easy, but He does promise that He will walk it with you. Purpose will demand that you leave your comfort zone, that you let go of familiar surroundings, relationships, routines, and ways of thinking that no longer serve the next level of your calling. It will require you to silence fear, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by refusing to let it drive your decisions. Because purpose and fear don't speak the same language. Purpose speaks vision, fear speaks limitation, and you cannot afford to listen to both. Stepping into purpose means trusting God even when the path doesn't make sense. It means believing that if He called you to it, He will carry you through it. He will carry you through it. Fear says, what if I fall? But faith says, what if I fly? Fear looks at the size of the obstacle, but faith looks at the size of your God. And when you operate from faith, you begin to realize that fear was never as powerful as it seemed. It was just loud. Every great move of God begins with a step of faith. Abraham left everything familiar. Moses returned to face his past. Esther walked into a room where her life was on the line. They were all afraid, but they moved anyway, and their obedience changed history. Your purpose has that same potential. It may not look like theirs, but it carries the same weight in the spirit. And it's waiting on you to say yes, not to perfection, but to courage. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to move, to take the first step, to show up even when you feel unqualified. Because God doesn't need your confidence, He needs your commitment. He's not looking for the fearless, He's looking for the faithful. Those who will walk through fear to get to destiny. Those who will trust Him when everything around them says it's impossible. Those who are done letting fear dictate the terms of their life. The environment around you plays a critical role in how the calling within you develops. You can't expect to grow in places that suffocate your potential. You can't flourish in soil that's not meant to nurture what God planted inside you. When God gives you a vision, it comes with the responsibility to protect it, to steward it, and sometimes to uproot yourself from spaces and relationships that no longer align with where He's taking you. There are seasons in life where God will start to stir something inside of you, and the people around you won't understand it. They may question your decisions, criticize your direction, or try to pull you back into the old version of yourself. Not because they're always against you, but because they're comfortable with who you used to be. Growth disrupts comfort. Purpose demands change. And sometimes that means changing your circle, your atmosphere, even your habits. You can't step into new dimensions of purpose while staying planted in environments that only support the old version of you. That version may have been acceptable in your last season, but it cannot sustain the weight of your next one. There are places that may have once felt like home, but now feel restrictive. That shift isn't random, it's divine discomfort. It's God letting you know that it's time to move, to expand, to separate yourself from what's familiar so you can step into what's necessary. Your calling isn't just about where you're going, it's also about what you're willing to leave behind. Some environments carry voices that silence your faith. They water down your vision. They keep you playing small so others can feel comfortable. But when God speaks vision into your life, He's not asking you to dim your light. He's calling you to shine it. And if your environment requires you to shrink, it's a sign that your assignment can't grow there. There is a spiritual sensitivity that comes with purpose. You begin to notice how certain conversations affect your mindset, how certain atmospheres drain your energy, how some places no longer feel like they belong to the journey God has you on. And it's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. You're not better than anyone else, but you're becoming better than you used to be. And that means making choices that reflect the weight of your calling. You don't have time to attend distractions that keep you from destiny. You can't afford to stay rooted in gossip, negativity, or fear-based thinking when your spirit is craving growth, discipline, and divine alignment. Your vision requires clarity, and clarity can't survive in chaos. You need peace. You need support. You need an atmosphere that stretches you without breaking you, one that pushes you forward instead of pulling you back. God is strategic in how he positions you. Just like a seed needs the right soil to sprout, your calling needs the right environment to thrive. That means surrounding yourself with people who speak life, who challenge your growth, who don't let you settle for mediocrity, people who remind you of your identity when you start to forget it, people who pray for you, not prey on your progress. Man, sometimes God will isolate you before he elevates you. That isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. It's in those quiet seasons away from the noise that he develops your character, sharpens your discernment, and reveals who really belongs in your next chapter. Don't resist the shift. Don't try to force what's fading. Trust that if God is moving you out of certain spaces, it's because he's making room for something greater. You can't pour your energy into environments that don't pour back into you. The vision God has placed inside of you is too sacred to be planted in shallow soil. You need depth, you need authenticity, you need divine connection. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your purpose is to change where you stand so you can rise into who you were created to be. The right environment doesn't just support your vision, it challenges it, stretches it, and calls it higher. It makes you uncomfortable enough to grow, but safe enough to heal. It calls out your potential even when you can't see it in yourself. And when you step into that kind of atmosphere, your faith begins to flourish, your voice gets stronger, and the calling within you starts to manifest in ways you never imagined. Obedience is the key that unlocks doors no amount of hustle, networking, or strategy could ever open. When God gives you a vision, he's not looking for your plan, he's looking for your yes. He's not waiting on your perfection, your resume, or your resources. He's waiting on your willingness to obey, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it costs you your comfort, your pride, or your need for control, because obedience is the currency of heaven. And when you move in alignment with God's voice, you step into supernatural favor and divine acceleration. And we often think that opportunity is something we chase, that if we work hard enough, post enough, or impress enough people, the right doors will open. But in the kingdom of God, doors don't open based on performance, they open based on obedience. It's not about who sees you, but who sent you. It's not about being impressive, it's about being submitted. Because when God sees a heart that is obedient, even in the small things, he trusts that heart with greater things. Obedience doesn't always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels like sacrifice. Sometimes it means doing the hard thing in the quiet place where no one's clapping. It means saying yes when your flesh wants to say no. It means forgiving when it feels easier to hold a grudge. It means staying when you want to run or walking away when you want to stay. Obedience is often the most challenging in the moments where it makes the least sense, but those are the moments when heaven is watching the closest. Throughout Scripture, we see how obedience leads to breakthrough. Noah didn't wait for the rain to start building the ark. He obeyed long before there was evidence of the flood. Abraham didn't receive the full blessing until he was willing to leave his homeland, not knowing where God was taking him. Their obedience didn't come after the confirmation, it came before, because obedience precedes understanding. It goes before the reward. It says, "Oh God, I trust you even when I don't have the full picture." There are things God is ready to release in your life, but he's waiting to see if you will obey what he's already said. He's not waiting on a new word. He's waiting on your response to the last one. Sometimes we delay our own breakthrough by ignoring the simple instructions. We want elevation, but we won't steward the season we're in. We want increase, but we won't tithe. We want influence, but we won't serve. Obedience may not be glamorous, but it is the pathway to the promise. The power of obedience is that it aligns you with divine timing. It puts you in the right place at the right time for the right reason. You never know what's on the other side of your yes. One act of obedience can shift the entire trajectory of your life. It can position you for blessings you didn't even pray for. Because when you obey God, you're saying, I trust you more than I trust me. I believe in your plan more than I believe in my preferences. Obedience often requires us to walk by faith, not by sight. It calls us to act when the natural evidence doesn't support it. It challenges us to lean not on our own understanding, but to acknowledge Him in all our ways. And in doing so, He directs our paths. Not just in theory, but in tangible, powerful, undeniable ways. He guides us to places we never dreamed of simply because we were willing to obey. There's a confidence that comes from knowing you're walking in obedience. It silences fear because you know you're not relying on your own strength. It silences doubt because you know you're not guessing, you're following divine instruction. Obedience doesn't eliminate challenges, but it guarantees victory. Because when you're in God's will, even the battles work in your favor. Even the setbacks serve a purpose. Even the delays are part of the design. When you live a life of obedience, you stop chasing blessings and start attracting them. You stop striving and start receiving. Because God honors obedience. He elevates the humble. He rewards the faithful, not because they're perfect, but because they trust Him enough to say yes, even when it's uncomfortable. And that yes becomes the bridge between vision and manifestation, between calling and fulfillment, between promise and provision. There is a version of you that God already sees, stronger, wiser, bolder, and more focused. A version of you walking fully in purpose, unshaken by fear, unbothered by distractions, and untouched by insecurity. But to step into that version, you have to let go of the one that's holding you back. God's vision for your life isn't tied to the you that's still trying to please everyone, stay safe, or avoid discomfort. It's tied to the you who is willing to evolve, to surrender, to transform. That transformation doesn't come through comfort. It comes through intentional growth. You can't keep asking God to elevate you while you remain unwilling to evolve. Elevation requires change. It requires shedding layers that no longer fit the season you're stepping into. It demands that you release not just toxic habits, but small thinking. Some of us are held back not because we lack potential, but because we cling to a version of ourselves that was built around survival instead of purpose. God is not trying to improve your past self. He's trying to introduce you to your future self. This process of becoming is not always glamorous. It happens in the private places, when you choose discipline over distraction, when you choose healing over bitterness, when you choose faith over fear. Every day you are faced with a choice. Will I stay who I've been, or will I grow into who I'm called to be? Growth is not automatic. It's intentional, it's uncomfortable, and it's necessary. Because purpose doesn't live in your comfort zone, it lives in your obedience, your surrender, and your willingness to change. There are parts of you that God is calling higher: your mindset, your language, your habits, your associations. Not because He wants to strip you, but because He wants to stretch you. What worked in your last season won't sustain your next one. You can't carry old attitudes into new assignments. You can't expect new results with outdated routines. Transformation requires pruning. It requires refining. It requires letting go of what's good so God can give you what's greater. Often we want the result of transformation without the process. We want the platform without the preparation. But God is not just interested in what you do. He's invested in who you're becoming. He's molding your character to match your calling. He's shaping your heart to handle the blessing. Because without transformation, success can crush you. But when you allow God to do the deep work to strip away the things that no longer serve you, you become the kind of vessel He can trust with more. This is not about striving to become perfect. It's about surrender, become purposeful. No. It's about letting the Holy Spirit do the work within you so that what comes out of you reflects Him. Transformation is not behavior modification. It's heart renovation. It's allowing God to deal with the root, not just the symptoms. It's allowing Him to heal the trauma, uproot the lies, and restore the places in you that have been broken for too long. There's a reason the enemy fights your transformation, because he knows that a transformed you is a powerful you. A focused you is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. A healed you is bold. A disciplined you is effective. A transformed you doesn't settle for less, doesn't get distracted by drama, doesn't bow to fear. When you embrace who God is calling you to become, you walk differently, speak differently, move differently. You don't need external validation because you're grounded in internal conviction. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not the breakthrough you're praying for, it's the person you become while waiting for it. It's how God strengthens you, develops you, and prepares you in the in-between seasons. Don't despise the process. Don't resist the growth. Lean into it. Let it shape you. Let it mature you. Let it introduce you to the version of you that's already known in heaven, the version that walks in full authority, full grace, full power. You have to decide that staying the same is more painful than growing, that the cost of transformation is worth it, that your purpose is more important than your pride, that your destiny is bigger than your comfort. You weren't called to remain stagnant. You were called to evolve, to rise, to become. In every step you take in the direction of growth, every decision you make to become more like Christ brings you closer to the vision He has for your life.